Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Chocolate Magazine's The Hollywood Connection. I'm here once again with Vasant and Nuan, and today we are going to be reviewing one of Marvel's most anticipated movies, Black Widow. That's right. To say we have been waiting for this movie for a long time is an understatement, right, guys?
Yes, it
Yeah,
is
yeah,
definitely an understatement.
yeah.
Yep.
This was
So,
something we should have gotten like a long time ago.
yep, very long. To say she should have gotten her own movie a long, long time ago.
Actually, yeah, this movie should
Definitely.
have come out like after Civil War or something,
It should have been, yeah.
to be honest. Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
So, today we will be giving you a review and giving you our thoughts on the Black Widow film. Basically, the pros and the cons. Fair warning, at the end, there will be a bit of spoilers because we will be having a discussion about some of the main plot points of the movie. So,
Definitely.
guys, who wants to start off?
No one, by all means.
But no, why don't you why don't Shamendra go first? I mean,
No,
she's the one
Kamal,
who's
why did
most
you
excited
start,
for
man?
this.
You've been waiting for this
Okay.
as long as we have.
Oh my God, yes. Okay, where do I start? Okay. So yeah, I've been waiting for this movie a very, very long time. And well, it didn't disappoint me in terms of story. It was a great story because it gave us that look at Natasha's past, that Natasha's background, that real intense journey, that peek into her past that we really wanted to see. We got a really emotional, action-packed flick, a real MCU film, a long time coming MCU film, and at a film that at its very core was about sisterly love, right? About Natasha and Yelena and their family, basically. Um, and from her conception in 1964 in the Marvel Comics universe, Natasha Romanoff has been a spy, right? So in this film, we get to see that real, true espionage type thriller flick. It basically goes all the way back to that, like a true gritty espionage type thriller, and it had some of the best hand-to-hand combat in the MCU. I remember someone saying that this film, since there was no superpowers, since Nat had no superpowers and Yelena had no superpowers, they basically went back to the basics, right? And we got to see some of the best hand-to-hand combat in the MCU, and it was incredible. Honestly, there were some of the best fight sequences that we saw. It was really amazing, and some of the best stunt scenes that we have seen, definitely.
Mm.
Um, and let's see. One thing I really loved was, let's see, without giving away too much, I loved how this film ties in to so many other MCU films, sometimes very subtly, and sometimes like in a very cool, very like, oh my God kind of way. And not just past films, but sometimes also upcoming stuff. So it's very exciting to see that. I was on the edge of my I was on the edge of my seat towards the end. I was like in tears, and at the same time, I was heartbroken, and I was like shocked. That is one thing that this film does. It
Mhm.
had some of the best plot twists, I must say. Some of the best plot twists I have seen in the MCU. It really kept you guessing, like just as you think you know what's happening, it hits you with something else. So yeah, it definitely brought a lot of emotions like nostalgia, excitement, a lot of laughter. I mean, of course, it's David Harbour. So then sadness, and like I said, shock. Um, but the movie also answered a lot of questions that were left unanswered in the past about Nat's past and a lot of other stuff. And like Scarlett Johansson revealed, we finally learn what happened in Budapest. Yes, we do.
Yeah, finally.
And that was a big one. Yes. And then moving on to Scarlett Johansson herself, her performance. Oh, wow. That was such a powerful and intense, emotional performance. That was incredible. I mean, she had me on edge in every single scene. And even if it wasn't an action-packed scene, those emotional scenes are what really get you. Her acting was on point.
Mhm.
And then, of course, there was Florence Pugh as Yelena. She also, I must say, she stole the show at some points. She was also incredible uh, in her own way. And she's going to be, I guess, like, the future of the MCU, and you must give her credit. That was an amazing performance that she gave. The entire cast, they really played off of each other really well. Really well, yeah. So, all in all, I would say, yes, you could say the film had its cons, but that does not, stop from the fact that it was an incredible movie, um, and it was one of the best origin stories of the MCU history. Definitely, yes. What do you guys think?
Good start for phase 4. And like you said, well, one side it was like we were talking about like 5 minutes ago. Movie that should have come out a long time back, actually, right after Civil War.
Yes.
But I think I partly understand why Feige would have decided to take this route. Because on one side, while it does follow up directly from the events uh, between Civil War and Infinity War, you also have a lot of things that they are setting up for Phase 4. Now, you have the various characters that they introduce, which we'll be talking about later in the spoiler free, well, not spoiler free, the actual spoiler parts of this discussion. And yes, the story overall interesting, very interesting. There were a few things that I wasn't particularly happy about, which I'm going to talk about later as we go along. But otherwise, brilliant action sequences, very well choreographed fights and stunts. I mean, bloody hell, man! Some of those stunts were it felt like Con Air slash I don't know a whole bunch of other. It felt like there were parts of Fast and Furious also mixed in. Hilarious, but at the same time, see, Fast and Furious, you're watching something that doesn't make any sense and all that. Here, when things start flying and explosions start happening, the stakes are real, right? We've seen those in past Marvel movies also, and so I was really enjoying myself there. Also, I'm a big stickler for spy movies, so this technically is the first spy movie we've had. I mean, what do you call it? Winter Soldier was close,
Yes.
but as a spy movie in itself, I mean, as a proper spy movie, this is probably the MCU's first, first time they've been dipping their toes into it and did a brilliant job. Um I will say this: if you are a hardcore comic fan, uh, we'll discuss more about this in the spoilers. But without spoiling anything, I'd say there'll be a lot of things that don't really go hand in hand or flow with the comics, particularly in Natasha's background. Some of the other characters, which you guys already know, those of you who have watched the trailers, Red Guardian, and so many others are there. I mean, the Red Guardian was Russia's answer to Captain America, and Red Guardian was part of a group that was basically Russia's version of the Avengers. You don't see much of that happening here. Instead, they've gone with one thing I've always thought about with the MCU is in order to be more relevant to today's world, they ignore a lot of the things that would have happened in the 50s, 60s, or 70s. They just set up stuff like that for, like you would see a bit of it in Ant-Man, where you had Hank Pym and the rest of the others who established Shield. But then a lot of the other stories you wouldn't really know. I don't know. They may explore that in the future. But to keep it more relevant, they have fast forwarded the story towards the 80s. And what I loved about the start of this film, and so I wouldn't call it a spoiler, but if you have watched The Americans, the TV show, you're going to love how Black Widow starts, because there's a lot of brilliant concepts that were introduced in The Americans about the KGB and all that you're going to find at the beginning of Black Widow. And I loved that. I loved how they, even though I was saying, as a comic book fan, it's different. The background is different. I love the way they start and give background to the Romanov family or whatever it is. Apart from that, I'd say it's a brilliant setup for a lot of characters that are going to come forward in the MCU. And I also understand why they also would have held this back and for Winter Soldier to come out and then let this movie come after, because there's a lot of there are not a lot, but there are a lot of minor things that tie between between the show and the movie. And again, this is all about setup. That's why when Feige said that Black Widow is going to be the first movie of Phase 4, I was like, what? I mean, this is supposed to be in the past. How is this a Phase 4 movie? Well, when we get into the spoiler parts of the discussion, I'll be more free to talk about it. But overall, like Shami said, really good movie, really good return to the MCU after a gap of what? 1.5 years? 2 years?
Yeah, about 1.5 years, I think.
More than a year, I guess. Yeah.
Far From Home was the last MCU release. So yeah, 1.5 years or more. And so it's a brilliant return to form. I mean, the TV shows did cover some ground or kept the fillers, but it was good to finally see, a proper theatrical release. And yeah, it's good to see that the MCU haven't lost their flair. They're still going on, and it shows promise for Phase 4.
Yeah.
Noah, you.
Nuan?
Yeah. So I'm glad to hear that you guys are really liking the movie. The part that well, it's a bit sad because I didn't enjoy it as much. But I'll start with what I like. I like the action. The very first fight scene between Natasha and Taskmaster, I thought that was really cool. That was a really cool fight scene. And then we see a bunch of like you said before, hand-to-hand type of fights that were really cool. And then there's like this big car chase that happens around the middle of the film. Yeah, so action, I feel like for the most part, like it was really cool. I liked David Harbour in the film. He had like some moments where, moments of levity and kind of he brought a sense of humor, especially when the family scenes happen in the movie where, he's trying to sort of the way he's interacting with the girls and it was really cute to see. And there's a lot of sort of references to the Red Guardian in terms of, I'm guessing these are stuff from the comics, because they couldn't do everything because of the way the MCU was already set up, right? So certain things that happened in the comics obviously couldn't have happened, but they kind of make fun of it. And the way the Red Guardian talks of certain things like Captain America or things like that, right? There were funny moments like that, references where, it's sort of like a little nod to the comics, little wink, You know,
Yeah.
those were really fun. Yeah. I think we'll get to the issues later. There were some, so I don't. When we get to that section, we'll talk about that stuff.
I do want to add that the
Mhm.
what do you call soundtrack was flipping brilliant. I mean, wow! That it's been a while since I've enjoyed what do you call it a soundtrack from a Marvel movie, and I think the name of the composer was Alexandre Desplat. The from the get go, from the trailers to the actual movie itself, one of the best soundtracks from the MCU so far, as far as I'm concerned. On the best
I think
scores.
yeah. I think that opening was
Oh,
amazing. It was brilliant.
American Pie,
So
American Pie, yes,
intense.
bloody
So
brilliant.
intensely done. Yes.
Yes, that
Wow.
was superb. Actually, you know what? When that version of American Pie was going on, the movie that came to my head was a movie we talked about recently, Zack Snyder's Sucker Punch, because Sucker
Okay.
Punch also starts
Yeah.
with a very dark take of Sweet Dreams. Sweet Dreams
I,
is
I
already
remember that.
And
Yes.
yes,
this, and I
already very
think
dark.
Black Widow had like a darker version of Smells Like Teen Spirit, right?
Yes,
In
yes,
the
yes.
opening credits.
Opening credits.
Yeah.
And
And there was American Pie as well. American Pie
yeah,
is the
American
one
Pie.
they sing along to, that one, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry. I mixed them up. It was Smells Like Teen Spirit and then American Pie afterwards. But yeah, the Smells Like Teen Spirit, the cover was a lot like the intro to Sucker Punch.
Mm.
And I loved it. I loved how the darkness of what this movie is. They set the tone from the beginning. They set the tone from the beginning to show that this movie is going to be not your usual MCU fare. There'll be a lot of that, but there's also going to be a very dark aspect of Black Widow's background.
So now we'll be having a discussion about the movie, which will include a lot of spoilers. So fair warning, guys. Okay, so guys, who wants to take the discussion forward first?
No one, you go ahead. You have a lot of gripes with the movie.
I have a lot of things to say. Okay. So, so getting into the plot of this, right? I felt like there was a lot of things that felt recycled from stuff that we've seen before in the MCU, like using a sort of a super soldier type thing to take over the world, or you have a character that we think is dead and they come back as a masked villain and there's a big reveal. I feel like a lot of these things I've seen before. And Natasha's backstory with the Red Room, right? Now we got a few slices of this in other films they set up, like in the first Avengers film, there's a little reference to that. And especially in Age of Ultron, I think, where they actually start showing the flashbacks where she finally opens up to Bruce Banner, right? And
Yes,
when they
yeah.
did that in that movie, right, in Age of Ultron, with the creepy flashbacks and the tone of it had a vibe, right? And I really felt sorry for her when she opens up to Bruce Banner, and you understand why she's sort of been alone, and it explains her motivations. And I felt like that was done really well. And now after watching this one, I kind of wonder, like, whether, I feel like Age of Ultron, that little thing was maybe enough, because I don't know if there was enough to make a full movie out of it. Now there was one thing, right? One thing that had the potential to make a full movie worthwhile. I'm going to talk about it right now. And it's the thing that she does in Budapest, right? That is the big thing, right? Now, it's a hard choice. It's a hard choice. It's selfish. It's horrible. She makes it. And what I felt like was they should have focused more on that.
Yes.
And what she did, and that should have been the reason why Taskmaster is coming after her, right?
Yeah.
I feel like that's what the motivation should have been for Taskmaster. What Natasha did and the price she is now going to pay for it. But I feel like the movie kind of gets distracted by all these other things, this kind of big plot with the villain and all of that doesn't really matter. It doesn't seem to matter as much. And I feel like Taskmaster, because the problem is this character is sort of like a drone, like a robot. Like there's no, um, you know, now this character has the perfect motivation to go after Natasha, right? But they don't use it. Like that's my problem, right? And it's what you get when you have a plot that revolves around mind control, right? This brainwashing again. Like how many times are they going to use this, right? Like because it kind of strips the character from like their personality, their motivations, and a sense of responsibility, right? Because it's sort of a easy get out of jail kind of card, right? With an easy fix, right? And I kind of feel like it's a lazy excuse to have a good character do something bad, and you have like this magical MacGuffin thing that can instantly fix it, right? And that I feel like was the biggest problem. They had the potential to do something really cool, like something more intimate with Natasha and Taskmaster. But then they had this whole other thing with the villain, with a who's trying to take over the world or something like that, which was too over the top, and kind of, I kind of zoned out of that, right? So that for me was sort of like the big issue with the film, right? They had, yeah, that was the main issue. What do you guys think about that? Like,
Yeah, so basically you're saying you didn't like the fact that Taskmaster was basically like just the guard dog, right?
yeah, I mean, I feel like
Yeah.
the character would have been more interesting if they were on their own, doing their own thing, like have
Yeah, I mean,
personal reasons.
even that
Yeah.
would have been really cool because
Yeah.
remember in Avengers, when Natasha is interrogating Loki,
Hmm.
Loki tries to get into Natasha's head
Yeah.
and he says, "Can you wipe out that much blood?" And then he mentions Dracov's daughter,
Yes.
right?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So that now see that has come off full circle all
Yeah.
the way here, right?
That's the
So
thing.
imagine
That's
how
yeah.
cool it would have been if it actually would have been Dracov's daughter all along
Yeah. Yeah.
behind all of this. Now that would have been a really cool plot, right?
Yeah.
So in truth, like you said, yes, we technically didn't need to see Dracov there. I mean,
Hmm.
just Taskmaster there would have been fine. That would have been a really cool plot. I mean, just Taskmaster would have been like a perfect villain.
They have the perfect reason to come after, right? And
Exactly.
then they could have had like a smaller. I feel like the scale could have been smaller, like on a more personal level, where then Natasha would have to go to her sister maybe for help or something, and they would have to reconcile their differences or something on a much more personal level.
For me, of course, one thing I really wanted to see more of was her backstory. Like we only got to see at the beginning, right before the opening credits, like young Natasha. But we never, and like during the opening credits, we got to see glimpses of her growing up. But we never actually got to see any flashbacks or any kind of proper, you know, a story of her in the Red Room, which I was actually really looking
Yes.
forward to. That is something I really
Yeah.
wanted
Yeah.
to see. Like you said, Budapest was something they really could have dug into. I was
That
also really looking
yeah.
forward to seeing
That could have
the
been
Red
like a
Room.
big like 15-20 minute segment where she has to make up her mind to do this, right? That could have been
Yeah,
like a thing, maybe.
they could have actually just shown flashbacks, even just flashbacks
They could have
throughout the
started the
movie.
movie with that. They could have started the movie with she's in Budapest. These are the stakes. What are you going to do now? Right? Kind of like a
Oh,
thing. That I mean, my mind is going everywhere now, but like I feel like that was the core. That should have been the core of the movie. Like what the the choice that
Although
she made.
that is totally not what I expected. I mean, all this time they kept talking about Budapest, and then they revealed this happened, and that is totally not what I expected. That is
Yeah.
deep. Yeah.
And it kind of is kind of weird because in the other movies, Budapest is like a joke. Like they talk about
Yeah,
it like it's a joke,
exactly.
and this is such a serious
I
thing.
know.
And now there's sort of
Exactly.
like a weird kind of disconnect now. I don't know what
Hmm.
to. Vasant, what
Well,
about you? You've been
Vasant, what do
quiet
you
for a bit.
think?
I've been holding my peace. Taskmaster was bullshit, right?
Oh,
Right?
Here
Because
it comes.
Taskmaster is a brilliant character from the comics that they're completely fudged up in this movie, right? This is where I bring in lazy as a lazy. I don't know. I want to call it lazy screenwriting, but
It
it's
is.
not really. I mean, the story in itself has good writing in it, so I don't understand what they did here, because Tony Masters, the actual Taskmaster, doesn't have any of this, right? There's no stupid backstory like this. He's a guy who was born with photographic memory, and so that's how he doesn't need a chip attached to his skull. He literally picks up everybody's movements, sees what they're doing, and then mimics them. He has no other superpowers, nothing. It's just his ability to copy other characters. Here, I don't know what the hell that was. I really don't understand why, with such a plethora of Russian villain characters, they could have gone with. Even if you take the X-Men out, even if you take the Fox characters out, you don't need Crimson Red, or you don't need all that. If there's a whole bunch of evil or maleficent Russian villains they could have used instead of the Taskmaster. They just literally create. This is the thing I'm a little disappointed with the MCU. They create take some really A-list villains, give them F-list backstories, and then literally kill them off in a movie. It's like, why? Why would you do that, right? Like, I do not understand the reasoning. I mean, they could have had that character and not called her Taskmaster, and would have still been brilliant. But for me, the fact that they called her Taskmaster pissed me off, properly pissed me off, right? And the reasoning, right? See, the Red Room. Now, yes, they did a very darkening. You get those flashbacks, and it really gives you a chill. I mean, I remember when I was watching Age of
I
Ultron,
remember
that
that
part.
Age of
Yeah,
Ultron, the flashbacks, right? That was creepy.
yeah,
yeah. That was
they operate on us, and do this, and that they do all kinds of things to these girls, right? So that was a chill, and I would have loved to have seen a little bit more of that here, which didn't happen. We just see the training process.
They just did it in the credits, right?
Yeah, and you just see this man. But I will say this though: Ray Winstone has not had a very good run of movie villains in the past, but here I actually enjoyed it. In fact, if I had not if I had not seen the credits, I wouldn't have even known it was Ray Winstone himself. He's quite old now compared to the previous movies. But I also, Red Room had a concept. I don't understand why they had to go shield helicarrier with it. It didn't make any sense.
Yes. I had a big problem
Oh
with
my
the
goodness,
giant
yes.
CGI.
The
giant
shield
CGI.
helicarrier.
Yeah,
Yes.
How are you hiding from it? The reasoning is that he was hiding from Nick Fury. This is how he was able to keep his operation from Nick Fury and Shield's eyes, right? But I was like,
his whole plan felt too it felt like a Bond villain, and I know that's probably why they had the little reference to Moonraker, because even in Moonraker the villain has a base in the sky, right? So they did this giant CGI base in the sky, and I'm like, oh, I can't believe that this is happening.
Yes, but you think like with all the technology Shield has, Shield would never have discovered this thing that has been floating in the sky for the last 30 years. And also,
that felt so familiar. It felt like Winter Soldier, didn't it? I mean, the whole falling out of the sky thing.
Yeah, and he has a plan to use the widows to take over everything, and it felt like the Hydra kind of thing.
Exactly. Plus that whole fight sequence, the second fight sequence she has with what do you call it, with Taskmaster, was literally a frame by frame copy of Winter Soldier and Captain America's fight aboard the falling what do you call it, Project Insight helicarrier at the end of Winter Soldier. You think about
That's
it.
what I said. Yeah,
She's like, I'm here. I won't harm you. I'm not going to do anything to you. I'm going to open the door. And then she's like, no, fuck you. My programming is going to override and I'm going to attack you and I'm going to do whatever. And then they have this whole fight sequence, literally frame by frame.
Yeah.
If you look at it, it's almost the same as Winter Soldier itself. Right?
And I'm tired of seeing mind control. Like, we've seen it. Like, it's the laziest thing. Like, we saw Loki do it in the first Avengers movie. We saw with the Winter Soldier, all that stuff with Bucky. Then we saw Wanda doing it, right? I mean, they're doing it again and again and again, and it kind of robs the character from their own kind of motivation, right?
True, but Red Room, you don't have choice.
True, but they kind of simplified it. It's like to a point where you don't have to have a person struggle against it, or it's sort of like, oh, here's an instant fix. Here's the cure. It's like right there. You expose the person and they're fine.
Yes.
It was like a quick
Winter Soldier. They did that well with Bucky randomly struggling. At times you could see that he's struggling with some old memory.
Yeah.
But you didn't have that.
Yeah, it was more of a struggle. That was more interesting. Yeah.
Yes. So definitely that was one gripe. These KGB agents have been trained to mimic American families and to be amongst Americans, like blend in and then steal their secrets. Now, what was hilarious for me was they steal Shield secrets, and at no point do they realize that this is Hydra. There's no Hydra reference whatsoever, which is very surprising to me, because considering the Red Room and its shady dealings,
they do. I think they mention it. Rachel Weisz's character says that she mentions that it was actually Hydra. Like, it's like one line. She mentions when they're at the farm. Yes. In the middle of the movie, she has like one line that says.
He says, before Hydra, or then they were Hydra, or something like that.
I know, but it was clear, right? And that was a bit weird. The other things that other gripes, not major, minor though, were how again Red Guardian we had the humor factor, and I love David Harbour's acting, that was brilliant. But Red Guardian was made too much of a, there's a term for that,
Father figure. Father figure.
No. Father figure, that was actually nice. I mean,
he was too dumb.
But yeah, he was watered down too much and made too much of a comic relief character than he should have been. Because Red Guardian is a serious, like he is the Captain America level figure in the comics. Now they did tease another member of the Russian equivalent of the Avengers. It was this dude he was having an argument with
Dynamo.
And that guy's name is Ursa. Ursa, if you know Russian mythology, Ursa is a dude mostly, even though it sounds like a female name. And Ursa usually are people who transform into bears. So there is this actual character in the comics, which was it was a good nod, but at the same time, like I said, it was missing the whole Russian Avengers program, or their version of the Avengers initiative. That's something
they mentioned by I think it was Yelena's character accidentally calls him Crimson Dynamo. I was like, that's not my name.
Yeah,
I love that. She accidentally calls him Crimson Dynamo, and he's like, it's Red Guardian. And I was like, that's a nice nod to the comic. That was nice.
That shows now CU is slowly adopting or playing around with the characters that they didn't have access to. Because Crimson Dynamo was an X-Men character, an X-Men villain.
Right.
And the fact that they actually alluded or mentioned that even is a good thing. That's a brilliant thing. And my final gripe, they did so much with how Natasha wants to free these girls, to clear her ledger. She did that, but also it was to free these girls from this mind control aspect. But what happens to these girls? How do they continue their lives? All that was ponder on, right? That was a bit disappointing because now they may touch on this. Now, one with the post-credit scene, that was really interesting to bring back the character from Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Yeah, and again, a very important and pivotal character from Nick Fury's time actually. When Shield was in the 60s and 70s, Lady Fontaine, I can't remember her full name. She herself can't remember her full name. If you remember that scene in Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But her character is a very crucial character in the establishment of Shield back in what do you call it, in the comics. So here, I think they're kind of, this is my take, I think they're kind of alluding to gradually building their version of the Thunderbolts. And the Thunderbolts are basically Marvel's version of Suicide Squad. Basically,
what I love is that connection to Hawkeye. That was epic.
That's the thing. So, yeah, and I love that they're going to set up. They're definitely going to bring her character into the Hawkeye series. That's coming in fall apparently. I checked.
Yeah.
It's coming out in fall. So I would go as far as to say this may be where we see the last of Hawkeye. Also, that's a possibility. Why would they be setting up? Huh?
That was insane. I did not see that coming. I mean, wow. Honestly, I thought she would have. I thought Yelena would know what actually happened to Natasha, but apparently,
they didn't
not.
at the time, right? All of this has happened. This is exactly, I think, after Infinity War, right after Infinity War, and probably.
I'm guessing that's after Endgame. I think.
After Endgame, it's after Endgame.
Sorry, my bad. Endgame.
Yeah.
Right?
But can I just say how happy I am to see Natasha Romanoff finally get the tribute, the memorial that she finally deserves. Because
yes, forgot in Endgame.
Exactly. In Endgame. But I mean, like we all, like everyone always said, like Natasha was a very simple person. So she didn't need like a big funeral or anything like that. She just needed something small, right? And to see her sister Yelena come to her tombstone and just lay a teddy bear or whatever there, that was simple enough, I think. That was, I think, the closure that everyone needed to see, right? And that was beautiful. That moment was so pure and so beautiful. I think that was the moment everyone needed to see.
Until Lady Fontaine shows up and then
exactly
working. So that's another reason why I was talking about Thunderbolts. If you notice, when they first introduce General Ross in this movie, she says, "Such a shame, you've had 3 bypasses." Now, in the comics, General Thunderbolt Ross is also very weak, and he then starts playing around Banner's, what do you call it?
The Super Soldier,
yes.
The thing, right? Yeah.
And then ends up ultimately becoming the Red Hulk. I think they're definitely setting that up. They're setting that up. There's also, I have this feeling that Lady Fontaine is actually working for him, because Ross is the one who set up the Thunderbolts, the comics as well. And they've already got their first recruit. They've got this US agent from Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Now you know that she's also working for her, and I knew that she's probably working for somebody else. It's because she says, I know you want a pay raise, but you and I both want a pay raise, but that's not how he will go for it, or something to that effect, right? So she's working for somebody.
Now I guess it makes sense to have William Hurt's character, because I was wondering why he's even in the film, like, because he really doesn't. Yeah.
He's also pissed off with her about the whole and all in Civil War, and they paid tribute. I mean, they paid off with the final scene where it's the Quinjet, the very Quinjet that they use.
Oh, I love that. I absolutely love that moment. Seeing, first of all, let me start from the fact that Yelena is the one who gave her that vest that she wore in Infinity War. That was, oh my God, that was beautiful. I love that moment. And then we see her aboard the Quinjet that we see in Infinity War. Like I said before, I love those little tie-ins that we see. Okay, so one, of course, was the tie-in to what Loki said in Avengers. Then
Yeah.
two was the tie-in to Infinity War. We see her go blonde. We see her board the Quinjet. And Yelena gives her the vest that she wears in that movie. Then 3, of course, is the time to Endgame, where we see Yelena come to Natasha's tombstone. And 4, of course, is the tie-in to Hawkeye. So I love those little tie-ins. It's so exciting to see them.
Setting up something. They're definitely setting up something, and I mean that's why. I'll go back to what I said earlier. When Kevin Feige announced the Black Widow movie for Phase 4, I was like, why? Why now? Why would, I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Right, okay, you want to maybe pay tribute or do whatever, but it didn't make sense at that point. After watching the movie, watching the movie, a lot of things, because otherwise you wouldn't be able to introduce a lot of these characters. I'm pretty sure they're going to bring David Harbour back again. They're definitely going to play around with the what do you call it, Red Guardian character. Pretty sure they're going to play with her mom in the series. Yes, because she's actually, so her character is actually a Black Widow villain in the comics. Forget the name of the character, the name of the what do you call it? She's actually known as Iron Maiden in the as a Black Widow villain. Like, there's no such relationship between her and what do you call it? Her and Black Widow in the comic.
Okay.
Oh, also there's one character that I wanted to sort of hear mentioned in the Black Widow movie, but I'm surprised wasn't. There's a character in the comics who is Black Widow's father, and sometimes is like a father to Black Widow. His name is Ivan. So he's like sort of a partner to Black Widow, and he's like in some comics he's mentioned as Black Widow's actual biological father. So when Black Widow was talking to Dreykov, I was kind of hoping that we would sort of hear his name or something like that. It would have been a nice nod to the comic.
Yes. So yeah, so those are my gripes, and in between the gripes there are a few good things also.
Any ending comments, guys?
Good movie, brilliant. I mean, interesting. Like I said, it's a good return to form for MCU with the problems, like the minor problems, like I mentioned. But other than that, good movie to enjoy. A good. Is it still summer season in blockbusters, or have we passed it?
It's still seasonal, no? I mean, I
so it's
Nuan?
Yeah, I'll just briefly say what I said before. I mean, I feel like it was a bit too big for its own good. It could have been a little bit more personal, a bit more intimate. More grounded action I would have liked it more like that. And I feel like it should have involved a tighter story and a tighter focus on Taskmaster and Natasha, like more on them instead of the sort of big villain and whatever that was going on with that. Yeah, that's how I feel about it.
To be honest, I feel like when I said Florence Pugh kind of stole the show, I mean that literally, because like some points it was supposed to be about Natasha, but they kind of focused it on her more. So that was one. Another thing I kind of didn't like, because some people are even saying it wasn't a solo movie because of that fact.
Yeah.
But okay.
And I think I kind of didn't like her jokes as well.
I thought it was such a great movie because, I mean, one thing is I love the character. I loved the story. I mean, I wish there was more in the story, but at the end of the day, this is a character I love, and this is a character whose origin story I have been waiting to see for a very, very long time. I'm not disappointed by the movie. There were things that I wish were in it. And even though those things weren't there, I'm still happy with the movie. I'm still satisfied. I still love how it turned out. It was, like I said, it was a beautiful, it was an emotional ride. Such thrilling action, and like that real great espionage factor. And Scarlett Johansson was brilliant as always. I loved her. So yeah, like I said, I loved the movie, and I love the character so much. I'm not disappointed by it at all.
That's good. That's good. You had fun. You had fun with it.
But yeah, like, I mean, there will always be things that I wish had happened, and things I wish hadn't happened. But at the end of the day, I'm not disappointed by the film at all. So yeah, that's my closing statement.
Awesome.
Okay. So cool.
Yeah.
So guys,
let's see what people will, you know, what thoughts other people have, and you know, maybe they
So
can
guys,
leave it in the comments.
if I asked you all to give it a rating out of 10, what would you give it?
Rating out of 10.
Yes.
I'd give 7 out of 10.
Okay.
Don't be mean, one.
I'm just saying it like it is. I'll give it like a 4 out of 10. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm being honest. I have to be honest. I have to be honest with myself. I'm not saying it's like it's not the most horrible thing ever, right? But like,
It's still
yeah, that's how I felt about it.
I would give it an 8 out of 10. Yes,
So,
I want
8 is good. Like 8 is good.
No, but I would. It's my girl, so I want to give it 10 out of 10. But I'm giving it 8 out of 10 because, you know, there are certain things that even I thought could have been better. But yeah, but it's my girl, and I love her. So yeah. So guys, that was our review of Black Widow. Make sure you watch it however you can, and hopefully we'll be able to see it in cinemas soon. All right. So thanks, Vasant and Nuan, for joining me. That was the Hollywood Connection. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.